Today we have Eric and Gareth here to talk about the aspects of estate planning as well as the importance of estate plan. Often we hear about horror stories around social gatherings about the experience of dealing with estates and the winding them up. Eric, maybe you can please speak to us about the value of doing estate planning and when wanting to draft a plan or updating your will.
Yes, so the importance of doing estate planning mostly has to do with limiting the amount of estate costs as well as taxes that you would need to pay in the estate, and to ensure that those assets can be transferred to your beneficiaries ultimately. Some of those aspects around taxes that you need to consider in your estate plan would be the fuller range of income tax, capital gains tax, value added tax presumably, as well as other aspects like estate duty, which is obviously levied against your estate. On the cost side, you also need to take into account things like executors' fees, which you need to pay to the individual that winds up your estate. There could also be other costs like having to transfer fixed property from the estate to an heir, and you would have to pay the transferring attorney for that purpose. So the estate plan is crafted with the idea of looking at how do you minimize these costs and taxes to ensure that your beneficiaries inherit the maximum that they can from your estate.
And probably secondary to that is that, you know, we can do all the planning to minimize all of these taxes and costs, but the other part of it is how do we finance them? So that's where we talk about your estate liquidity. You know, if you're in a situation where your estate has a very large capital asset base, maybe a few properties, but not very much cash, you know, it can sort of force the beneficiaries into a situation where they don't have the cash in the estate to necessarily pay for all of these taxes and transfer costs and things that we've mentioned. So part of that estate planning process would be to run sort of a liquidity analysis, just to make sure that you and your beneficiaries are aware of where the estate may be, because after the fact, you know, it would be less ideal to be in a situation where a family is forced to sell an asset that may be like a family home that's got a lot of sentimental value, and we all know notoriously sort of estate sales don't necessarily fetch fair prices in the market. So there's a lot of unintended consequences. So from a liquidity standpoint, it can be vital to make sure we've done an assessment on that basis through your estate plan, and that your will talks to that.